At the beginning of the school day, Daniel walks in and is greeted by everyone. But something feels off. No one is wearing their school uniforms. I wonder why that would be. That's right, it's a day for a school outing. The panel shifts to show Daniel's outfit, and some students off to the side whisper to each other that he looks almost like a different species, because of how good-looking he is. The teachers gather all the students to discuss the rules and other important details. Daniel shares that he doesn't have the best memories from his middle school outing, but he's confident this time will be different thanks to his new and improved body. He hops onto one of the buses and heads straight for the seat next to the teacher, the spot he was always stuck in. The teacher glances at him, wondering if he lost a bet or something. Just then, Zach and his friends call him from the back of the bus, offering him the best seat available. Nervously, he walks over, stepping into a territory he never thought he could access before. The bus is starting rolling down the road, and we can see everyone engaged in a game. Mira is the last one to close her hands, which means she's about to get slapped. But it turns out Zach is the one who has to do it. The group encourages him to hit her hard since she's been winning all the rounds so far. Mira looks up at Zach, clearly nervous. Zach shuts his eyes, raises his hands, and slowly brings them down to tap Mira's hands gently. The others start yelling at Zach, accusing him of going easy on her just because she's a girl and calling him a pervert. Zach's face turns red and Daniel chuckles a bit, saying that he's having so much fun. Meanwhile, the other bus, which is just carrying the architecture crew, is completely quiet. Jace thinks to himself that the vibe is really tense. Vasco, who couldn't sleep because he was too excited, now has dark circles under his eyes. To lighten things up, Jace decides to take off his shirt and suggests they have a dance party. Everyone joins in, taking off their shirts and chanting, "Nipple party, nipple party." The bus driver slumps into his seat, wondering to himself, why everyone at this school seems to be crazy. Vasco feels relieved that Jace has lightened the mood, but it couldn't have come at a worse moment. The beauty department bus pulls up right next to them, and we see girls getting cozy with Eli. At that moment, the entire architecture crew bursts into tears. All the buses stop for a bathroom break, and they discover a punching machine. Zach is the first to take a swing and sets a new record of 892. Not long after, Vinjin steps up and surpasses Zach with a score of 902. "Did I just break your record, Zach?" Vinjin taunts. "How can you call yourself a man?" But before he can finish, Zach smashes the hammer record that Vin just set. He fires back, asking Vin if he still considers himself a man after losing his record. The two get in each other's faces, trading insults, but they soon get distracted when Vasco and Daniel notice the punching bag and hammer. In the next scene, Vin Jin and Zach watch as Daniel tears apart the punching bag, while Vasco demolishes the hammer machine. The duo heads to the bathroom, but they're interrupted by another guy whose stream is so powerful it's spraying everywhere. They ask the two guys how old they are with really scary looks on their faces, and the guys on the other side of the bathroom say they're 17. Zach teases them by calling them little babies, even though he's 17 too. The guy with the strong stream insults Vin Jin, saying that he wears clothes that rappers wear, but he's a fake rapper because he's never heard of him. They part ways, but agree that if they cross paths again, it's going to end in a big fight. Everyone gets back on the bus, and soon they arrive at their destination. Daniel yawns as he steps onto the pavement, but before he can take it all in, someone yells for everyone to line up. It's the camp instructors. Some of the girls whisper about how good-looking one of the instructors is, but they complain about the other one and hope they don't end up in his group. The attractive instructor greets everyone and tells them that for safety reasons, they'll need to check their bags. The 3-night, 2-day school camp has officially started. The instructors begin searching through their bags and discover a bottle of alcohol hidden inside a Pringles can. They also uncover a pack of cigarettes stashed in a sealed bag of chips. As a consequence, the instructors make everyone who had contraband do exercises as punishment. The attractive part-time instructor instructs everyone to put their bags away in their rooms and prepare for some games. We see a group of students engaged in a game where they have to pass a ball from one side to the other, using only a piece of pipe that each person receives. Jace looks over at them and rolls his eyes at their enjoyment of such a childish game. Meanwhile, Vasco watches the ball game with excitement, his eyes shining. In the next scene, the construction department is playing the game with intense focus, as if their lives depend on it, and Vasco is thrilled. They move on to another game where they must form groups based on the number called out by the instructor. When the number 3 is announced, Jace and Blondie cling to Vasco, while the guy who previously tried to challenge him gets eliminated. Vasco glances over and sees Li being embraced by 4 girls, and he can't help but feel a tear roll down his cheek. The talent show is about to start, and the bakery team is impressively chopping up fruits and veggies at lightning speed, leaving everyone in awe of their skills. Following that, the beauty department takes the stage for a group dance, twirling their hair as they move. Once the dance wraps up, Duke takes over the stage, delivering powerful lyrics that send the crowd into a frenzy over his rapping talent. Vin Jin can't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Meanwhile, Daniel thinks to himself how happy he is to have joined the school outing. After the talent show, it's time for lights out, and everyone needs to settle down for the night. Du guides everyone to a room where the 4 girls from the beauty department are still hanging out. Daniel glances at the alcohol and wonders if he'll be pressured to drink again. Zach announces that he has plans with someone else and invites Daniel to join him. The 4 girls are left surprised that the only 2 guys they were excited to chat with have suddenly disappeared. Zach knocks on a door and Mira appears. We see Daniel, Zach, and Jiho sitting on the floor, captivated by the green light Mira created by placing her phone under a 7-Up bottle. Yui then asks if anyone wants to play Truth or Dare or have a drink. Mira tells Yui that she's a lightweight, so she'll probably be the first to get drunk. Zoe jumps in to comfort Mira, mentioning that both Daniel and Zach are also lightweights. Jiho has started to drink for the first time. As the night goes on, it's clear that after the drinking game, everyone is completely wasted except for Mira, who hasn't had a drop of alcohol. Later, the instructors burst into the rooms, but everyone in Mira's room has already left, so they don't get caught. The only ones who face trouble are those in Du's room. We switch scenes to see Daniel in his original body running. Since he has some time off work, he's decided to go for runs while his other body sleeps to build up his stamina. He jogs past a convenience store where the owner is looking at his computer. The screen shows photos from school camp, featuring attractive girls in revealing outfits. The owner notices that all these posts are from the same person and starts to wonder who's been secretly taking these pictures. Daniel wakes up to the start of the second day at camp, only to discover that while he was sleeping, some of his friends had drawn on his face. Unfortunately, Jiho had it worse. He's covered in doodles from head to toe. The first activity of the day is rafting, and we see the part-time instructor having a blast with Mira and another girl. They're clearly enjoying themselves, unlike the other raft, which has the shorter instructor. The group there looks frustrated and upset, wishing they could be with the more attractive instructor instead. The main instructor turns his gaze toward Mira, and she catches his eye, puzzled about why he's looking at her. As the day comes to a close, everyone receives candles to honor those who came before them and made this camp possible. Zach starts to reflect on his parents and feels emotional. The mood becomes sentimental, and some girls begin to cry as they think of their moms. Mira looks up and notices the short instructor stealing another glance at her. It's lights out again, but the construction department has other plans. They're caught up in a wild pillow fight, and Jace invites Vasco to join in. In the next scene, we see the traitor being tossed out the door headfirst. Meanwhile, Mira and Zach are out for a nighttime stroll, chatting away. Daniel and Jiho are tucked in bed, and Daniel starts reminiscing about all the fun they've had at camp, excited that he gets to go home tomorrow. Over with the instructors, they're indulging in all the confiscated alcohol, arguing that it would be a shame to waste it, so they decide to enjoy it instead. The main instructor thinks to himself that they're all unprofessional for drinking while on duty. He announces that he's heading to the warehouse. No one gets me, he thinks to himself. I need to find her. We can see one of Mira's revealing photos on his phone. When he opens the door, he finds the part-time instructor and Mira carrying boxes. The main instructor yells at him, questioning why he's with a student after hours. The part-time instructor casually explains that Mira was wandering alone, and as a consequence, she has to help him with the boxes. He shoots a disapproving look, and Mira starts to feel uneasy about the whole situation. The charming instructor turns his back and assures her that once she's done helping, he'll send her back to her room to rest. The instructor suddenly seizes the moment and tackles him to the ground, throwing punches at the part-timer's face. Mira feels a rush of fear and confusion, unsure of how to react. Just then, the main instructor's phone slips from his pocket, and she catches a glimpse of a photo of herself undressing. Her eyes widen in shock, and she pushes the short instructor away. Furious, she demands to know why the main instructor has such pictures of her. Meanwhile, the part-timer starts to stomp on his senior, while Mira urges him to report the main instructor to the police. He turns to her, grateful for her help. The scene shifts to Daniel, who has been pulled back into the store. His boss instructs him to hang up a poster, but as he does, something grabs his attention. His eyes widen, and his jaw drops when he sees the attractive instructor, who turns out to be a rapist. Back at the camp, the instructor shows his true nature. Mira's breathing quickens as she realizes she's in a perilous situation. She screams for help, but the part-timer explains that the warehouse is too far from the camp for anyone to hear her. He then punches her in the stomach to silence her. The not-so-handsome instructor prepares to undress Mira, asking her which piece of clothing he should start with. He begins to take off his pants while explaining how he landed this job. It turns out the camp administrator checks everyone's documents, so he had to swipe his brother's papers instead. He licks his lips and reassures himself that Mira really loves him, like, a lot. The short instructor manages to regain his senses and goes after the part-timer again. But just as he gets close, the part-timer kicks him in the leg, making him stumble. As he falls, he seizes his head and slams it into his knee. Mira watches in tears. "Let's keep going. I don't have much time," says the grapist, as he strides toward Mira. Meanwhile, we switch to Zach, who is asking Yui and Zoe where Mira is, and they both tell him she still hasn't come back. He reflects on how strange it was when they said goodnight. Mira mentioned she was heading straight to bed because she was tired, so she wouldn't be out drinking. Suddenly, Zoe receives a call from an unknown number and answers it with caution. When the caller introduces himself as Daniel from the convenience store, Zoe's expression brightens. He tells her he has something serious to discuss, so she needs to pay close attention. Daniel instructs her to wake up Daniel. Daniel is now awake in his big body. Without hesitation, he grabs the phone and calls the police to report their situation. But they inform him that since they are in the mountains, it will take about 30 minutes for help to arrive. Just then, a bag falls to the ground, revealing Zach with an expression unlike anything we've seen before. He heard everything. He quickly turns around and bolts toward the warehouse. Zoe approaches Daniel and tells him to lower his voice since people are trying to sleep. We're back at the warehouse, where we see Mira huddled in a corner with the main instructor lying unconscious on the floor. The graper questions Mira about her tears, saying that now that there are no distractions, they can get back to their work. Mira begs him, promising not to report him to the police if he lets her go. This seems to trigger something in the graper, and he forces Mira down onto the ground. He starts hitting her in the face, yelling that she was the one who flirted with him first, and that none of this is his fault. We see Mira's bloodied face as she looks up at the man looming over her. She tries to kick him off, but he doesn't move. The crazed man begins to undress her, but just before he can do anything worse, Zach bursts through the door, looking like he wants to take a man's life. He charges ahead without any hesitation. Graper notices this and gets ready to fight, realizing Zach has some skills, but Zach is too consumed by anger to notice the kick coming from below. As he starts to fall, the part-timer grabs his head and aims for another knee strike. Zach finds himself caught in the part-timer's hold and attempts to use dirty boxing by throwing a punch behind the head, but he gets pushed down before he can land a hit. Seizing the opportunity, Graper delivers a knee right to Zach's ribs, breaking a few in the process. He follows up with another knee to Zach's head. Meanwhile, Mira is stuck in the corner, helplessly watching her boyfriend get beaten up. We see Daniel and the gang searching for Zach, with Daniel worried that it might take a long time to find him since the camp is so big. Zach is still standing against Graper, but just barely. Both of his arms are broken, and he has several cracked ribs. Graper licks his lips and tells Zach that it's time to finish this. Just as he's about to deliver the final blow, the short instructor manages to grab his ankle, distracting him for just a moment. Zach sees his chance to get up close to the part-timer and completely wreck his face. The Graper thinks he can take the hit and counterattack, but Zach is one step ahead. He quickly readies his left fist and slams it into the Graper's face. Now that the guy is on the ground, Zach starts landing punch after punch. Just then, the police and the gang arrive, and Mira tries to pull Zach away from the part-timer. The police take the Graper into custody, and the students start murmuring, questioning if they've got the right guy. We see Won Bin on a stretcher, thinking he managed to save the kids, but he overhears some students wishing he was the one getting arrested because of his looks. Zach catches their attention and challenges them to say it again, insisting that Won Bin is a hero. He even bows his head in respect. The next day, both of them are in the hospital together. Mira is slicing apples for them, thanking the two for saving her, and Zach can't help but blush a bit. As the month draws to a close, the shopkeeper hands Daniel his payslip, noting that he's included a little extra this time due to Daniel's hard work. He suggests that Daniel consider buying a gift for his parents. Reflecting on this, Daniel decides he wants to get his mom something new and cozy, especially since he noticed her sleeves were quite worn the last time they met. He makes his way to a large clothing store and greets an employee, asking her to guide him to the women's section. They share a laugh, with the employee whispering to a colleague that it's hard to believe he has a girlfriend, so it must be for his mom instead. She warns him that the prices are on the higher side and questions whether he can afford it. Daniel thinks to himself that it's been a while since he's experienced this kind of treatment. Afterward, he boards a bus and greets a woman, informing her that he'll be sitting next to her. She grimaces but begrudgingly shifts over. When the bus finally arrives at its stop, Daniel finds himself back in his old neighborhood. A wave of anxiety washes over him at the thought of possibly running into someone he knows, fearing he might get into trouble. Just then he hears someone call his name. It's a former classmate who used to witness Daniel getting bullied regularly. He gestures for him to take a seat and have a conversation beneath the gazebo. He informs Daniel that after he left, Logan was extremely angry. The people that used to witness Logan's bullying has been steering clear of him, not wanting to become his next target. Daniel can't help but wonder why this classmate is suddenly being so friendly. They hadn't exchanged a word until now. As he glances down, he notices his classmate is busy typing on his phone. Daniel suspects he might be messaging Logan and his crew to come over. He tries to say that he's in a rush and needs to go, but just as his classmate tries to hold him back, a ball comes soaring through the air and smacks him right on the side of the face. A guy, a girl, and the messy look-alike appear. The guy asks Daniel why he transferred schools without informing anyone, mentioning how lonely they've all felt without him. He chuckles at Daniel's classmate and reveals that since he's taken on the role of the new Pikachu, he actually wanted them to beat him Daniel for a break. They start digging through Daniel's belongings, pulling out an envelope and a bag of clothes. The guy rummages through the wallet and discovers a $50 bill that Daniel's mom had given him. They thank Daniel for the cash, but just as they're about to leave, Daniel tells them that they've taken all the money from the envelope but need to return the $5 left in his wallet. Fear causes his hands to tremble. The guy grips Daniel's shoulder, calling him an arrogant loser and questioning his audacity to ask for mercy. He tightens his hold, but it pales in comparison to Vasco's infamous grip. Daniel seizes his wrist and forcefully pushes him to the ground, demanding his $5 back. The guy is taken aback by Daniel's unexpected strength, wondering if he's been hitting the gym. The messy look-alike attempts a head kick, but Daniel remains unfazed. He catches the kick just before impact and throws him down as well. Daniel reflects that this is the first time he's been able to look down on someone after a fight. However, before he can enjoy the moment, he spots a very familiar figure entering the scene. Logan Lee, his arch-nemesis. He traps Pikachu and questions whether he fled because he didn't enjoy their time together. Daniel perceives Logan as a menacing figure, unable to meet his gaze and fixated on the ground. The guy starts kicking Daniel, demanding to know why he embarrassed him in front of his girlfriend. Logan glances at the cash in the envelope and praises him for the amount he has. He instructs Pikachu number 2 to take notes from Daniel and learn from him, as he doesn't make nearly as much. However, he warns that if he attempts to escape, he will track him down and end him. Logan informs Daniel that he'll allow him to graduate from being a Pikachu, which leaves him stunned. He mentions that since he has moved, he has found a new Pikachu. "You can consider this a graduation gift," Logan adds, while counting the money in the envelope. He walks away, cautioning Daniel to keep his distance from his block, and waves a farewell. The girl also hands back the clothes her mom gifted him. We shift scenes to find Jay on a phone call while soaking in the bath. The voice on the other end expresses regret for not being able to meet him again for Thanksgiving and suggests that Jay take a solo trip to clear his mind. After ending the call, he turns on the TV, where a reporter highlights Busan as an excellent vacation destination. As Jay steps out of the bath, we notice his computer is open, revealing that he has booked a ticket to Busan. Meanwhile, we return to Daniel, who has reached his mother's workplace. The two women inform him that his mother usually leaves during her break. He begins to scan the streets, thinking about the gift for his mother and how delighted she will be when he gives it to her. Just then, he hears someone shouting. It's a store employee reprimanding his mom for trying to take the cardboard, explaining they already have someone to handle their trash. The employee allows her to take it, but only this once. Daniel's heart sinks as he realizes she has taken on another job to cover his school fees. Back at the house, Daniel's mom is thrilled to try on the new jersey her son gifted her. She reflects on how grown-up Daniel has become, able to buy such nice clothes. Daniel then brings up his roommate, asking if he can join them for the holidays. Meanwhile, Daniel waits for his bus, and passers-by comment on how he resembles a celebrity. He thinks to himself that with his new physique, he can finally get back at Logan and reclaim the precious $5 bill his mom gave him. Just then, Jay shows up, catching Daniel off guard. Daniel mentions he's heading to a friend's place in Sunukdo and asks about Jay's plans. We see Jay clutching a ticket to Busan. They board the bus together, and when Daniel tells the woman next to him that he has the inside seat, she blushes and quickly moves aside to let him in. He thinks about how he needs a solid reason for being there and for taking turns sleeping to switch with his other body. Jay sits behind him, gazing out the window, and Daniel thinks about the chances that they share the same destination and the same bus even. In the meantime, Jay secretly grins to himself as his ticket lies discarded in the trash at the bus station. The duo arrives at Daniel's house, where his mom greets them with a warm smile while busy packing cardboard boxes. Daniel offers to lend a hand, but she politely declines, explaining that it would be impolite to make guests do her chores. She wishes both Jay and Daniel a good night before heading off to bed, as she has an early start the next day. Daniel glances at his other self and tells Jay that the person sleeping is actually his friend. As night falls, Daniel, now in his new body, goes to sleep while his original body wakes up. He mentions to Jay that he's heard about him from his friend. Jay then hands Daniel a stick of gum. Although it's the wrong brand, meant for those trying to quit smoking, Daniel appreciates the gesture nonetheless. He sits down to fold the cardboard boxes and shares that his mom had given his friends, Daniel, a $5 bill, which was unfortunately stolen because of him. My mom gave it to him from selling these boxes, Daniel explains. It may not be much, but to him, it was a lucky charm. The scene shifts to the next day, where we see Logan handing an envelope to someone. They glance at the cash in the envelope and deliver a sharp slap to his face. They tell him that his contribution falls short of the monthly quota. He offers an apology, but they warn him not to let this happen again. Logan begins to protest, scratching his jewels and pointing out that the usual quota is only $1,000 per grade. He argues that it's unfair for him to collect 3 times what others are expected to contribute each month. The leader retaliates by kicking Logan, telling him to mind his words. He threatens to wash Logan's mouth out with soap, stating he's been lenient because they share the same studio, but he can't give him any more chances. You better pay up by next week, the leader commands as he strides out. The scene shifts to a grand hotel, where the manager is seen greeting one of his VIP guests. As the camera pulls back, we see that the esteemed visitor is Jay, looking sophisticated in his robe and sipping a glass of red wine. The manager mentions that he has looked into the individual Jay inquired about. He describes the person as a student named Logan Lee, notorious for being a troublemaker and a bully at school. As the manager exits, he questions Jay about his interest in Logan, adding that Logan is also a black belt in jiu-jitsu. We shift back to Logan. We find the studio's leader and his 2 companions sprawled out on the floor, unconscious. With a low growl, he warns them that since he has bested them, they shouldn't even think about reclaiming his money. I earned that cash through hard work, Logan asserts. He tells the leader that if they have any grievances, they should take it up with their superior. The leader mutters under his breath, expressing that their boss is a terrifying figure and that Logan wouldn't stand a chance in a fight against him. Meanwhile, we return to Daniel, who is now in his new body, adjusting his shoes. He informs his mom that he's heading out and will return later. As he opens the door, a massive stack of cardboard boxes comes into view. His mom explains that a nearby hotel left the boxes for her to manage, which piques Daniel's curiosity about how that came to be. Later in the day, we see Logan outside, a bag slung over his shoulder. Jay approaches him, and Logan vents about how everyone seems to be after his money today, claiming he's having a streak of bad luck. Thinking Jay is begging, he tries walk past him. However, when Logan tries to dismiss Jay, he stands his ground and extends his hand. "Wait, are you trying to rob me?" Logan questions. He starts asking Jay questions, like who sent him, and if he came alone. Jay doesn't answer any of his questions, and instead starts taking off his jacket to fight. Logan thinks that he is bluffing because he doesn't look strong. He then realizes that Jay actually took his jacket off, so Logan wouldn't be able to grab onto it when they fight. After realizing this, Logan realizes that Jay is serious and tells him to follow him to an old building so they can talk with their fists. We switch to the jujutsu studio. They are on a call with someone. The leader tries explaining that they did have the money, but they were ambushed. It was all stolen. The person on the other end asks them if he must settle it when he arrives at their town next month. The leader replies with a yes, but the person on the other side says it's too bad. The caller is revealed to be Gun, and he says that he's not the collector anymore. He says a character named Gu is collecting everyone's money now. Gun reassures them that he will inform Gu about the current situation. After ending the call, we see the woman he's been tasked with protecting, sitting across the room. He expresses his relief at no longer needing to collect money from everyone, noting that watching over her is far simpler. He also mentions the opportunity to witness talent from various places while traveling with her, bringing up a specific individual his boss instructed him to monitor. Suddenly, a voice calls out from across the room, a man inquiring if he can see who this person is that the boss is interested in. Gun questions his curiosity, to which the man replies that he's simply intrigued. As the camera zooms out, we recognize the pop star who popularized those chrome rings and sneakers. Switching scenes, we find the man who betrayed Daniel to Logan and Messi earlier that week. Daniel approaches him, asking if he knows Logan's whereabouts. The man tries to play it cool in front of his girlfriend, attempting to intimidate Daniel with a silly expression, but Daniel remains unfazed. He looks away and reluctantly reveals that Logan is likely at the jiu-jitsu studio or an abandoned building with his crew. Daniel nods, looking down, and thanks him for the tip. Logan lunges forward with his right hand, but Jay deftly sidesteps the attack. In retaliation, Jay unleashes a flurry of rapid jabs to Logan's face and jaw. As Logan attempts to seize him, Jay leaps back, evading his grasp with agility. With some space between them, Jay launches into a series of high kicks, making Logan realize that his jiu-jitsu skills might not be effective in this encounter. He recognizes Jay's fighting style as Systema. It's the first time he's witnessed it in action, but he has a plan. He snatches the money pouch from his pocket and rips open the envelope, forcing Jay to close the distance. This plays right into Logan's hands, as he knows he can't hold Jay if they're out of reach. In one swift motion, he yanks the envelope away and grabs Jay by the hair, pinning him down. With Jay immobilized, Logan begins to rain punches down on his face. He secures Jay's head under his arm, cutting off his circulation. He squeezes tightly, demanding that Jay tap out and reveal who sent him. Despite the pressure, Jay refuses to give in. Logan warns him that he could lose consciousness if he doesn't act soon. Jay struggles to grab Logan's clothing, but it's futile. After a few tense moments, Jay's body goes limp. In the distance, a scream pierces the air as Daniel calls out for Jay, just in the nick of time. As Daniel floats in the air, he can't help but question why Jay has chosen to confront Logan of all people. He releases Jay to free his hands, and just as Logan's fist is about to come crashing down on him, Daniel swiftly swats Logan's hand aside. Logan is momentarily stunned by Daniel's unexpected strength, especially since Jay had struggled to defend against that very same attack. Where did these kids come from? Logan wonders. He demands to know who Daniel is and who sent him. But the moment Daniel meets Logan's gaze, a rush of emotions floods back to him. Realizing he's at a disadvantage after his recent fight, Logan decides to call it quits. "Get out of here before I change my mind," he growls. Despite his new abilities, Daniel feels a deep-seated fear of Logan that leaves him nearly paralyzed. He feels a wave of relief wash over him at the thought of avoiding a confrontation. Jay, regaining consciousness, notices Daniel carrying him, and he asks if anything still hurts from their earlier skirmish. "It was just unfortunate timing to run into one of the toughest fighters in their town," says Daniel. Jay extends his hand, revealing Daniel's $5 bill nestled within. Daniel is taken aback and asks Jay how he managed to find his lucky charm, but Jay remains silent. "You took it back from Logan instead of me. I feel so ashamed," Daniel admits, clenching his teeth in frustration. Memories of his encounter with Logan flood his mind, and he realizes that while his body may have changed, his thoughts remain the same. The primal fear he harbors for Logan persists, regardless of his new appearance. Overwhelmed, he begins to cry onto the $5 bill, lamenting that he may have changed outwardly, but inside, he still feels like a pathetic pig. Jay jumps off Daniel's back, mistakenly thinking that Daniel's tears are a result of him being too heavy. The following day, Daniel attempts to return a coat he bought for his mom, only to find that the store employees refuse to accept it due to a stain. "It was already there," he protests, but the two employees dismiss him. Daniel's mom, however, takes it in stride, saying the coat was too nice for her anyway. Just then, a booming voice interrupts, inquiring about the disturbance. The voice asserts that there is an important customer present, and they cannot afford any disputes. Daniel spins around, taken aback to find Jay impeccably dressed in a suit alongside the manager. Curious, Daniel approaches Jay and asks why he is there. Jay nods in response when Daniel wonders if he's taken on a part-time job. Jay then asks what brings Daniel to the store, to which Daniel explains he's trying to return an item of clothing, but the staff is making it difficult. Hearing this, the manager and employees visibly tense up. Jay glances at the manager and signals them to provide Daniel with a new coat right away. Grateful, Daniel thanks Jay for stepping in to help. In the back of the store, we see two employees on their knees, apologizing profusely for their earlier rudeness towards Daniel's mother. The manager barks at them to speak louder. Daniel's mom attempts to defuse the situation, insisting that apologies aren't necessary. Fast forward a few days, and Daniel is back in his hometown. We find Vasco in the gym, powering through heavy bench presses. After completing his set, he sits up and notices Daniel watching him. He asks how he can help him. Daniel boldly declares that he wants to transform himself. Vasco's eyes widen in surprise as he questions whether Daniel is prepared for the challenge ahead. Daniel expresses his desire to change not just his physique, but his mindset as well. Daniel is out jogging with Vasco, and you can see he's really sweating it out, while Vasco looks completely fresh. Daniel's feeling so wiped out that he thinks he might just collapse. After they finish their run, Vasco gives Daniel a pat on the back for a job well done. Between gasps, Daniel asks Vasco if just running is enough, or if he should pick up a martial art or something. Vasco tells him there are no shortcuts. He explains that hard work pays off, so if Daniel puts in the effort, he can really change himself. Daniel notices the bench press and asks Vasco if he works out every day. Vasco casually mentions that he does 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and runs 10 kilometers daily. Daniel can't help but wonder how Vasco still has all his hair. Just then, Jace shows up, and Vasco asks if he used telepathy to find him. Jace replies that he just figured Vasco would be here. He then gives Daniel a look and tells Vasco that he hasn't had much time to hang out with him because he's been busy training Daniel for the last 3 days. Zach spots Daniel sipping on a chocolate milk and thinks it's clear that he will eventually give up, questioning why Vasco is even bothering with someone like him. We're back at school, and Zach is still suffering from his injury from the camp mishap. Mira is feeding him like he's a little kid, and surprisingly, he seems to be loving it. Vin-Jin glances at Mary, but she quickly tells him to not even think about it. Vasco gives Daniel a chocolate milk, urging him to drink it before it spoils. Jace notices this and wonders why Vasco has been handing out so much milk lately. Daniel ponders what kind of crew the Burn Knuckles really are, good or bad. They might look like troublemakers, but he knows there's more to them, especially since they're led by Vasco. Wanting to join in, Jay hands Daniel 2 cartons of chocolate milk, and Daniel thanks him for the thoughtful gesture. As the school day wraps up, we see Woong helping an elderly lady carry a hefty stack of boxes up a hill. Daniel jogs over to lend a hand and manages to push the whole wagon without needing help from Woong or the lady. Woong stares at his hand, amazed that Daniel managed to push the whole wagon all by himself. Meanwhile, in another part of town, two kids are crying because their expensive ball is stuck in a tree, and they know their parents will be furious if they can't get it back. Jace notices the situation and decides to kick the tree to try and shake the ball loose. He starts sweating and thinks he should have just kept walking, instead of trying to look cool by kicking the tree. Just as he's having that thought, the tree shakes and the ball falls free. We see Daniel with his leg out, having knocked the ball down with a single powerful kick. He greets Jace, saying it looked like he needed help getting the ball down. Then he points out a bug on Jace's shoulder, which sends Jace into a fight or flight mode, since he's terrified of bugs, and he bolts away. Daniel reflects that maybe the Burn Knuckles gang isn't so bad after all, they just have a tough exterior. Jace is sitting on a bench, lost in thought. He's reflecting on Daniel's kick and wondering if he might actually be stronger than Vasco. Just then, Daniel, now in his other body, asks Jace what's on his mind. Jace responds that he's thinking about some jerk. He intimidates Daniel a bit, questioning why he's even talking to him. Daniel says he's just curious about Vasco, which catches Jace's attention. Daniel goes on to describe Vasco as amazing, strong, and kind, even saying he wishes he had a body like Vasco's, as if he's from another planet. Jace glances at Daniel and realizes that he might be more attached to Vasco than he initially thought. Maybe he's been through some tough times, Jace muses, and it makes sense why Vasco is looking out for him. He reflects that Daniel has no clue about who Vasco really is and what he's experienced. We see Vasco, whose real name is Yuntae, playing with his action figure. Jace is Yuntae's only friend, and his mom used to give them snacks, always thanking Jace for being there for Yuntae. Later, we find them in class together. Jace shares that he's glad they're in the same class, and when he asks Yuntae if he feels the same, Yuntae nods. Some classmates start chatting about a new mobile game that's gaining popularity. Yuntae begins to feel left out and asks Jace if he's ever played games on his phone. Jace suggests they download the game together. This makes Yuntae very happy. Just then, a few classmates approach Jace, inviting him to walk to the snack shop together. He blushes, agrees, and invites Yuntae along too. While they're waiting in line, some seniors cut in. The biggest one starts asking if anyone has cigarettes. The friend in a gray jersey hesitantly hands over his smokes. He glances at Jace, suggesting they join the seniors for a smoke, thinking it would be a big deal for them. Jace considers it, but Yuntae warns him not to go with them, reminding him that their mom said smoking is bad and that they shouldn't even touch it. He adds that smokers are losers, which seems to irritate the seniors. The big guy then walks over to Yuntae and slaps him across the face, but Yuntae does not apologize and then starts kicking him. Everyone is stunned as Yuntae silently endures the hits. Jace can't even look at Yuntae. The senior in the yellow jacket warns Yuntae that he'll regret calling them losers. The next day, Yuntae shows up to class covered in blood. Jace tries to comfort him, saying those bullies are just pathetic losers who pick on smaller kids like Yuntae, but Yuntae insists he's okay. Jace thinks to himself that Yuntae seems fine, but being around him feels risky, so he decides to keep his distance. Some time passes. Yuntae invites Jace to the snack shop, but Jace declines, saying he's already going with some other friends. He ends up sipping his chocolate milk alone. Some more time passes. While outside the school looking for a place to smoke, Jace hears someone crying and goes to check it out. It turns out to be Yuntae, sobbing all by himself. Jace's eyes go wide. He's never seen Yuntae cry before, so he quickly turns and runs away, trying to forget what he just witnessed. The next week, Yuntae is absent from school. Jace knows he's not the type to just skip out, so he worries that something must have gone wrong. Still, he tells himself it might be for the best since Yuntae was clearly struggling just to come to school every day. Then, one of his friends catches his attention and tells him that he's been asked to bring Yuntae's friend to the seniors. Jace arrives and notices some seniors picking on another student. Two of them spot him and wave him over. The senior in the yellow jacket turns to Jace and asks if he knows why he's there. "Not really," Jace replies, his voice shaky. The senior kicks the other student, who crumples to the ground in pain. Then he pulls out what looks like a pen and asks the student if he wants to end up like that. The student's eyes widen, and he scrambles back against the pole. Jace starts to worry if he's going to face the same treatment as the kid in front of him. The senior in the yellow jacket begins drawing on Jace's face and asks if Yuntae is his best friend. Jace nods, "Yeah." The senior then shoves the marker up his own nose, changes his tone, and tells Jace that Yuntae has been missing school for 2 days. He warns Jace to bring Yuntae back by tomorrow or he'll be the one hanging on that pole, and the thing in his nose won't be a marker. After they leave, Jace and the other students start wiping the marker off their faces. The kid with glasses tells Jace that Yoontae is incredible. He gets beaten up every day but never complains. Jace thinks to himself that Yoontae is really tough, and he couldn't handle that. Fast forward to when Jace is about to ask Yoontae to return to school. He stands outside the door, unsure of how to talk to his friend, whom he feels he has let down. He opened the door, and it was very dark inside. Jace asked if Yoontae was asleep, and Yoontae wanted to know why he had come to visit. Jace rubbed his head and explained that he hadn't seen him at school for 2 days, so he wanted to check in. He handed Yoontae some notes and started to look around the room, spotting some tissues stained with blood. Jace thought to himself that Yoontae must have been hurt pretty badly. To encourage him to return to school, Jace mentioned that they hadn't hung out in a while, and there was a lot of homework piling up. Yoontae saw right through Jace's lie, but assures him he will go back to school. He admitted he had been feeling under the weather for a few days, but was starting to feel better. Jace couldn't help but wonder what the bloody tissues were for then, and continued to search the room. When he went to jot down some notes for Yoontae, he noticed the pen, and Yoontae immediately told him to get rid of it. Jace could see Yoontae trembling at the sight of the pen. Memories of what the senior had said earlier that day flooded back to him. He jumped onto the bed and threw off the covers, and Jace's heart raced. Yoontae's body was marked with irreplaceable, carved brands. Jace breaks down in tears, asking Yoontae why he didn't speak up earlier. He tells Yoontae that he should have just apologized back when he called them losers for smoking, as it could have prevented all this. Yoontae responds quietly, saying that when you show fear, pain, and cry out, it makes them feel powerful. They bully to impress others, and if he gives in to their demands, it means he's losing. Yoontae looks at Jace and insists he doesn't want to be a loser. Jace is too shocked to respond. Yoontae thinks to himself that all good-looking guys are trouble. The next day, Jace confronts the seniors, telling them that Yoontae is really hurt and they should stop their actions. Suddenly, a fist comes flying at him, hitting him right in the face. Jace clutches his face in agony, wondering how Yoontae has endured this pain for so long without a word. The big senior taunts him, asking if he's ready for another hit, and starts targeting Jace while he lies helpless on the ground. The senior leader gets furious, warning that if Jace wants to play the hero, he'll have to face the consequences. He tells his buddies to close the door and keep an eye on things in the hallway. It's just the two of them now. The senior reminds Jace that he had already warned him. If he didn't bring his friend today, he'd be the one hanging out with him instead. He pulls out the tool he used to mark Yoontae. He mentions that while it's meant for eyebrow tattoos, it can also work on belly buttons. Jace shuts his eyes, bracing for a sharp pain in his stomach, but Yoontae shows up just in time. Feeling guilty for dragging his friend back to school, knowing he was just going to face a beating, Jace can't bring himself to look at Yoontae. He reflects on everything Yoontae has done for him, and feels he can't even call himself Yoontae's friend anymore, given all the trouble he's put him through. Just as Jace is lost in thought, Yoontae steps in front of him with his hands raised, surprising everyone watching. "That's my friend," Yoontae declares. The big guy doesn't waste any time and lands a kick right to Yoontae's head. Yoontae tries to throw a punch, but the big guy easily sidesteps it. Another senior jumps in, delivering a kick to Yoontae's side. Yoontae goes for another punch, but again, he misses. A few minutes pass, and the three of them are still at it. The seniors comment on Yoontae's stubbornness, even though they've really beaten him up. "Don't mess with Jace," Yoontae says, blood streaming down his face. Jace crawls over to the senior leader, pleading for the beating to stop. He reaches out, but instead, the leader unleashes a flurry of attacks on Jace. Yoontae can't do anything since he's pinned down by the big guy. The other seniors start to get anxious as the leader is going too far and is losing control. The guy in the blue jacket heads outside to look for teachers, but before he can make it through the door, the big guy spots him flying across the room. We see Gu with the student who was forced to hold onto the pole. "So one's out cold and two are left," Gu says. He winks at Jace, hinting that he's brought in a fighting prodigy to help them. He asks Gu if he can take them all on, and Gu replies that as long as he gets paid, he's in. But the guy in the red jacket is heavy, so it'll cost an extra $200. The seniors ask who he is, and he smirks, saying he's a villain, just like them. The student tells Jace that Gu is a distant cousin of his, and they're the same age, but the big difference is that Gu is an excellent fighter. The big guy swings hard, but ends up getting tripped and kneed as he falls. He seals the deal with a well-placed shot to the groin. The senior leader pulls out a knife and asks Gu if he thinks this is a joke. Gu glances at his cousin and mentions that it'll cost an extra $500 because of the weapon. He wishes he could really teach these guys a lesson, But if he does, he'll end up in a place he really doesn't want to be, so he settles for just knocking them out. Gu notices some engravings on Yoontae and wonders if the senior with the knife did that before. With a knife and a victim in front of him, Gu thinks to himself. He tells his cousin he'll take on the Yellow Jacket senior for free. A big grin spreads across his face as he adds that since Yoontae looks like he's being bullied, anything he does can be justified as self-defense. His cousin feels a sinking feeling, admitting he was afraid something like this might happen again. Gu's cousin remarks that bad things happen when a wicked person crosses paths with someone even more wicked. The leader charges in for an attack. Before he can get close enough, Gu swings a chair at him. While the leader is down on the ground, he mocks him for being cheap for using a knife in a fistfight. The leader complains about a broken tooth and insists he'll cover all the hospital expenses, but Gu brushes him off and shoves the chair into his face. Then he stomps on the leader's hand, which was reaching for the knife, causing him to scream in agony. Gu shares a story about a kid from his neighborhood who once tried to stab him, and he ended up breaking all the kid's fingers. Now writhing in pain on the floor, the leader asks Gu why he's doing this. Gu flashes an evil grin and replies, "For no reason at all." The leader trembles in fear and ends up wetting himself. Just then, teachers burst through the door and take in the chaotic scene. They manage to calm things down and escort everyone to the principal's office, where the three seniors accuse Gu of abuse. However, Gu defends himself, claiming he was just protecting himself and the injured boy. He warns the principal that if he gets punished for defending a relative from a knife-wielding maniac, he'll take the matter to the press. He adds that the school could either face serious consequences or let him leave peacefully. The three seniors are visibly shaken by his tone. In the next scene, we see Gu heading home, completely unfazed by the earlier incident. He tells Yoontae that he should give him some cash as a reward for taking care of his bullies, but he's willing to let it go this time. Yoontae then asks Gu how he became so strong. Gu replies that he does 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and runs 10 kilometers every day. Yoontae vows to himself that he needs to get stronger to protect himself, his friends, and those he cares about. Gu's cousin offers them a skewer, and Yoontae flinches at the sight of the sharp needle. Jace is at a loss for words. Fast forward a few days, and we find the two chatting. Jace mentions that since Yoontae loves birds, he got a bird tattoo. He shows off a bluebird tattoo on the left side of his chest. Yoontae is in awe, but gets nervous when he remembers that getting a tattoo involves a tattoo gun. Jace teases him about being a chicken, but Yoontae insists he'll get the tattoo no matter what. He gets the bluebird tattoo in the same place as Jace. We flash back to before Jace got his ink. He pleads with the tattoo artist to give his friend a cover-up, but the artist thinks Jace is out of his mind for wanting to tattoo a kid. He tells Jace to leave and never return since it's illegal to tattoo minors. In the next scene, we see Jace outside in the cold, sitting on the ground. His snot has frozen, and he's starting to show signs of hypothermia. The tattoo artist finishes up and steps outside, only to find Jace in that condition. He finally says yes, but he needs to practice on him first. We then return to after Yoontae got his first tattoo, where the artist wished he had a friend who would go to such lengths for him, just like Jace does. Fast forward to the present, 3 years later, and Jace claims he has no regrets and is glad to still be by Vasco's side like true best friends. He stands up to head home but is interrupted by loud honking and beeping in the distance. Jace wonders who's riding a bike in the park. As the riders crest a hill, they start to look a bit familiar. Jace spots them right away. They're the senior bullies from their previous school. They park their delivery bikes and notice Vasco working out, but they mistake him for a thug because of his tattoos. As he starts grunting, the three bullies look genuinely frightened. The leader warns everyone not to make eye contact. They shift their focus to Jace and Daniel, trying to figure out if they've seen Jace before since he looks familiar. The big guy notices Jace's prominent ears and recognizes him immediately. They get up, and the big guy says he'll bring Jace to them. But before he can act, Vasco starts chatting with Jace. Vasco mentions he needs to use the bathroom. The bullies are taken aback by how casually the two are interacting. As they head toward the bathroom, the leader thinks Jace is making fun of them, as Jace looks back for a second and shoots him a dirty look, signaling them to leave. They then turn their attention to the overweight guy sitting next to Jace, ordering him to follow them for a little chat. They instruct him to stand against a wall. The leader asks Daniel if he's buddies with the guy with the big ears, but before Daniel can respond, Jace jumps in. "Leave my friend alone," Jace says as he stands up to the bullies. "Looks like nothing's changed. Come here, Daniel." Daniel feels touched by Jace's show of friendship and courage. The leader then reveals a scar on his face from their run-in with Gu years ago and threatens Jace, saying he'll give him a few scars too. Jace just brushes him off, telling them all to scram. This infuriates the leader, who charges at Jace, but ends up getting smacked with a wooden sign, clearly not having learned from past mistakes. His two friends rush in to help, but are quickly taken down by Jace. Do you have any idea how hard I've worked every day because of you guys? It's enough to make me bald, Jace declares, looking down at them as they squirm in pain on the ground. He adds that he wishes he could keep going, but he knows Vasco wouldn't be happy about it. Jace heads off, asking Daniel to join him. We flash back 2 years to when Jace and Vasco wrapped up their tattoo sessions. Jace's tattoo reads, "My Hero Man E.T." Vasco is curious about the meaning behind it, and Jace admits that the movie really moved him when he first saw it. As their chat comes to an end, Vasco starts to walk away, but he turns back to tell Jace that he considers him his hero man. However, as Unte leaves, we notice that Jace's tattoo doesn't refer to the alien E.T. It actually stands for Unte. Next, we see Gu chatting with someone, expressing that it feels like he's talking to a celebrity since he's heard so much about him from various detention centers. The person turns out to be Gun, who mentions that he's been assigned to do a partner test with Gu. We switch scenes again to find a student being bullied, using tactics similar to what Gu's cousin had to endure. It becomes clear, though, that the bully is actually Gu's cousin, who, after relying on his cousin for protection, now believes he can act without facing any consequences. "You met my cousin, right? Should I call him? He's a good friend of mine," the bully boasts with a smug grin. A purebred dog is getting compliments from a group of people for her beauty, but they make fun of her mixed-breed puppy. The owner picks up the mixed breed named Inu and promises to hug and sleep with her every day. Inu feels a deep love for her owner. As time passes, Inu grows and becomes almost as big as her mother. One day, her owner looks down and realizes Inu isn't a purebred. Inu continues to think about how much she loves her owner. When it's time to go out to eat, the owner tells Inu to sit. The owner's mother asks her why she doesn't take Inu out anymore. Inu's owner explains that because she's a mixed breed, people will laugh at her. She reassures herself that she'll bring Inu some food later. A few months later, a moving truck is seen getting ready to leave. The parents tell their child that she can take the dogs with her. She pulls her hand from her pocket and tells Inu to sit. As she drives off with the purebred, she leaves Inu behind. Inu thinks to herself, "Don't worry, Mom, I'm great at staying put. Why is Mom acting like that all of a sudden? I've stayed so many times before. What's different about this time?" We can see the condition of Inu and can assume a lot of time has passed. She is skinny, dirty, but yet, she hasn't moved off the spot she was told to sit at by her owner. Inu thinks to herself that the sky keeps getting dark and wonders why her owner hasn't come back yet. Some people try to feed Inu, but she thinks that they are robbers trying to break into her home. Inu lies down in the cold night and sniffs her scarf. It reminds her of her owner who abandoned her. We are now at school and the teacher announces that they have a new transfer student. Do ask if it's a girl, and the teacher nods his head, which gets the guys very excited. But as soon as they see who is standing in the doorway, they all slump in their seats, silent. The girl's name is Crystal Choi. Daniel wonders to himself why a transfer student would come just before the winter vacation. She scans the room and identifies the cool girls group. She keeps looking and finds the unpopular girls group, where she plans to sit with. As she puts her bag down, she spots the cool guys group as well. Daniel looks at Crystal and she reminds him of his other body, who always gets bullied, so he decides to get friendly with her to try to prevent any of that. He says hi to her. He introduces himself as Daniel and tells Crystal that he also transferred to the school a few months ago. "We live in the same area, it seems, so it's nice to meet you," says Daniel. "I hate handsome guys," thinks Crystal. Crystal reflects on how often she's faced humiliation disguised as kindness. With a forced smile, she thanks Daniel. Zach notices the three guys and warns them not to tease Crystal. Do and his friends feel uneasy, questioning when Zach started acting nice. As the school day wraps up, Crystal walks home alone. She hears barking and spots three guys tormenting a thin, abandoned dog. Inu growls at them, determined to protect her home. Mary steps in, questioning why they're hurting the dog and why they aren't with Zach. Stu explains that Zach has been acting strange lately, so they went off on their own. He lights a cigarette, ready to burn Inu's sensitive nose, but before he can, Crystal intervenes, shielding Inu from the group. "Stop bothering the poor dog," she demands. Vinjin sneers, asking who she is, and says that she smells bad, but Crystal stands her ground. Inu starts biting at her leg. Crystal thinks to herself about how much she despises people who look down on others. Just as things are about to escalate, Daniel arrives and asks Crystal if everything is okay. She looks up at him, while Vin Jin and Du start to sweat as Daniel questions them about the situation. He then turns his attention back to Crystal, inviting her to come closer. The next day, we see Crystal struggling with a stack of heavy papers. Zach and Yui are chatting behind her, and Yui asks Zach if he can lend a hand. He reminds her that both of his arms are in casts. Just then, Crystal accidentally trips and is about to fall, but Zach manages to catch her just in time. "You know my hands are like this, so don't get mad," Zach says. Daniel approaches to help out and asks Crystal if she made it home okay, suggesting they head home together today. "Please don't be nice to me." Crystal suddenly replies, "I appreciate it, but your kindness could complicate things for me." Daniel pauses, trying to grasp what she means. Meanwhile, some girls across the hallway shoot Crystal intimidating looks as she walks away with Zach and Daniel. Yui suspects that Crystal is just pretending to be weak to hang out with the guys. Crystal opens her book, revealing that some students have scribbled all over it. At lunchtime, she's keeping to herself when a group of unpopular girls approaches and dumps their unwanted broiled fish onto her plate. Yui also joins in, adding her own fish to the pile. She reflects on how differently boys and girls bully each other. Boys tend to do it openly to assert dominance, while girls often resort to secretive tactics, revealing their true colors only in private spaces like bathrooms. As the school day wraps up, Crystal is once again spending time with Inu. She glances down at her belly and realizes that Inu is pregnant. Feeling a mix of concern and compassion, she wants to take the dog home, but Inu won't move. Instead of giving the sausage in her hand to Inu, she ends up biting Crystal's arm. Suddenly, she hears a voice behind her and sees Daniel standing there. He tells her he was worried about the dog and brought some food for her. He then asks Crystal if she's also concerned about Inu. Crystal thinks it's odd that this handsome guy seems to care about dogs. She scolds Daniel for only bringing food, since Inu needs water too. Crystal shares Inu's story about how she ended up abandoned on the streets without anyone to look after her. Daniel thinks to himself that Crystal is really compassionate as she tries to coax Inu into eating. He recalls earlier that day when Crystal told him not to be nice to her and wonders why she said that. Scratching his head, he asks her what she meant back then. Crystal thanks Daniel for all his help and explains that, like Inu, she knows how to fight and survive on her own. Crystal confidently declares, "I'm not as weak as you think." She says that if someone keeps offering her support, she might start depending on them. Daniel is taken aback by her words, thinking to himself that she's way tougher than he is. Suddenly, his heart races. Later that day, we hear Crystal talking to herself about the events that unfolded. Her clothes are strewn on the floor next to the shower as she ponders who Daniel really is and why he's pretending to be nice. What a hassle, she thinks. Now the other girls will start targeting me because of him. The scene shifts to reveal that Crystal is in a different body. Is Daniel not the only one with the ability to change forms? She questions why she was advised to keep an eye on him. Glancing over, she sees her other body asleep in bed. Picking up her phone, she notices 87 missed calls from guys eager to chat. She throws on her jacket, slips into her shoes, and heads out to live her real life at night. Gunn is leaning against a car, clearly frustrated about having to wait for Crystal top of the massive mountain. He reminds her that the president is waiting for her. Crystal finally steps out of her gate, apologizing for oversleeping. Gunn teases her, asking if she sleeps all day since it seems like she gets at least 12 hours of rest. Crystal brushes it off, claiming she just needs a lot of sleep. It turns out her father, the president, is the only one who knows about her secret of switching bodies. During a meeting, a group of guys introduces themselves, all blushing a bit. After the meeting wraps up, a father and son approach her, handing over their contact information. They run a powerful law firm and offer their help if she ever needs it. Crystal can't help but think that all these fancy business cards made from eggshells are just typical of men, as she glares at the two in front of her. On their way back to her mountain house, Gunn playfully teases Crystal about how the son from the law firm seemed quite fond of her. She dismisses it, saying they only care about her looks and not who she really is inside. Crystal decides to hop out of the car early to jog the last stretch of the journey to burn some calories, but while running, she remembers Inu and takes a detour. As she runs, she ponders why her father wants her to keep an eye on Daniel from school. She wonders if he has some special talent like hers or the other guys, but doubts it, thinking he's probably just another guy who only likes pretty girls. When she finally reaches Inu's spot, she's surprised to find Daniel from the convenience store squatting in front of the dog, trying to coax Inu into eating something. Crystal says hi to Daniel and asks how he knows about Inu. Daniel explains that he heard some barking coming from the convenience store, so he decided to check it out. They chat for a bit, and Crystal surprises him by revealing that they're the same age. Daniel mentions that Inu is pregnant, and that he's trying to help her gain some weight. Crystal is impressed by Daniel's thoughtfulness and kindness, thinking to herself how caring he is. She recalls all the times she saw him working out at the convenience store and remembers her own journey of self-improvement. Crystal suggests they work out together, since she enjoys it too, and it would be a great way to get to know each other better. Daniel is taken aback. He's never been asked to work out by such a beautiful woman before, and wonders if she's up to something like a pyramid scheme or an organ business. He also thinks back to when he offered to help her, but she turned him down, wanting to handle things on her own. Daniel thinks to himself, I want to be like her. I need to be strong. He appreciates Crystal's offer, but politely turns it down, expressing his desire to tackle his challenges on his own. He echoes a phrase Crystal once said while in her pig form, leaving her momentarily speechless. Wow, he thinks like I do. Who is this guy? Crystal wonders, feeling her heart race unexpectedly. Just then, a voice calls out for Daniel, breaking the moment. It's Zoe, letting him know the store is locked and asking how long he's kept her waiting outside. She grabs his hand and leads him toward the convenience store, glancing back at Crystal, who is blushing slightly. The next day, Inu is preparing for childbirth, sensing that the babies are ready to arrive. She realizes someone has taken her scarf and worries about how she'll protect the house after giving birth. Shivering from the cold, she hopes no one will start trouble with her again. Just then, a dark figure appears from around the corner. Inu starts barking fiercely to scare off the intruder. The person reaches out their hand and she bites it. Are you back for something? Inu thinks anxiously. Get lost, thief. She keeps attacking the stranger until their hand is covered in blood. The camera shifts up, revealing that the mysterious figure is actually Daniel. He comments that Inu only nibbled on Crystal and wonders if it's because he took her scarf. He builds a cardboard house for Inu, which makes her feel a lot better. He retrieves Inu's scarf and hands it back to her. Sorry for taking it, he explains. It was dirty and I didn't want your pups to get sick. Inu is thrilled to have her scarf back in good shape and rolls around in her cardboard box, wagging her tail. Daniel watches from afar as Inu gives birth to 4 adorable puppies, and he couldn't be happier. He approaches her and slides a bowl of seaweed soup her way. As Inu notices the bandages on his hand from her bites, she starts licking the soup, and Daniel jumps for joy, thrilled that she's finally warming up to him. From a distance, we spot Crystal observing the two of them, holding a flask of something. She can't help but smile, knowing that Inu is about to start putting on weight again. Meanwhile, outside the convenience store, a few people are grumbling about how long Daniel has been in the restroom. The following day, Crystal is still in her mature form. The heir of the H law firm wonders if asking her out for a meeting on such short notice is too much to handle. Crystal thinks it's quite a burden, but keeps that to herself. They chat about dull business matters until the law firm heir shifts the conversation and asks for her number. Crystal forces a big smile and tells him maybe another time. His heart races, and Crystal thinks to herself that understanding men is so straightforward. Later that night, she receives a call from the principal's office in her smaller body, inquiring about her recent absences. Crystal tries to brush it off, claiming she's sick. When they ask about her parents, she admits she hasn't been in touch with her mom and that her dad lives far away. They inquire if she has a guardian, and she confirms she does. As the camera shifts to her other body, the next day she shows up in her mature form and all the boys can't help but blush. A staff member is chatting with Crystal, and he can't help but blush when he sees her, drawing a comparison between her and her twin sister, who also goes to the school. Feeling annoyed after the teacher made that comparison based on their looks, Crystal storms out. As she walks through the hallway, everyone stops to stare at her. Vin Jin thinks to himself that he's never seen anyone as beautiful as her. Meanwhile, some girls in Daniel's class start whispering about whether Crystal has been skipping school due to Yui's bullying. Yui, with a scowl, snaps back, "Why are you looking at me? I didn't bully her." Zack then catches her attention, expressing his disappointment, saying he thought she had changed after their incident with her ex-boyfriend at the convenience store. This surprises Yui. A few guys in the class stand up for her, but Zack quickly shuts them down, insisting they shouldn't be fawning over a girl. Mia chimes in, asking Zack if he's about to start another fight, but he brushes it off, claiming he has no clue what she's talking about. The supporters of Yui fire back, pointing out that he's doing exactly what he told them not to do. Suddenly, a box full of burgers is dumped on the teacher's desk. Crystal then reveals that she's actually Crystal's sister. Daniel finally remembers where he's seen her before, at the convenience store. Zoe thinks to herself that she recalls seeing her with Daniel just a few days ago. Crystal locks her eyes on Yui and with irritation asks her not to disturb her twin when she returns to school. Yui avoids looking at her and feigns innocence, claiming she has no clue what Crystal is talking about. Daniel shoots a disapproving look at Crystal, thinking she's being pretty rude to someone she just met. Noticing Daniel's glare, Crystal shoots one back, recalling how she warned him not to let his looks inflate his ego during the auction at the festival. She figures Daniel's pride is bruised because of her, while Daniel reflects on how she used to be nice to his other self. It seems like the two body switchers are at odds. Meanwhile, we check in with Inu and her crew, who have all put on some weight and look quite healthy. Daniel sets down a bowl of dog food for the dogs and says, "I have to head to work. I'll be back later," as he waves goodbye. Inu remembers her previous owner saying the same thing. The pups dash after Daniel, and Inu barks for them to return, knowing they should wait for their old owner, but she can't help but see how much they enjoy Daniel's company. Inu grabs her scarf and heads over to Daniel. "I'm sorry, my owner, your scent is fading." She thinks to herself, "I have to stay here, but can I wait with him?" She leaves her spot and follows Daniel home. A few months later, Daniel is feeling anxious about managing the expenses of raising 4 puppies and their mother all on his own. Zach suggests that Daniel consider putting them up for adoption. Daniel replies that he wants to find someone he can visit regularly, so Zach proposes giving them to Jay. However, Daniel hesitates, not wanting to impose on him. The next day, we see 4 adorable puppies dressed in stylish outfits. Jay's butler questions him about his sudden decision to adopt 4 puppies, especially since he's not fond of dogs. We then flash back to Jay offering to take care of the dogs for Daniel. Daniel expresses his gratitude, and we can see a smile spread across Jay's face.